I'm Rora.
I'm Jane,
And we are Birds of Clay.
and we're here to talk all things Australian pottery and ceramic art.
So put your kettle on.
And let's have a chat. We would like to pay our respects to the traditional custodians on the lands on which this podcast is recorded. We acknowledge the rich history of art, craft, and storytelling that has been occurring for millennia, and acknowledge elders past, present, and country as provider, protector, and guide. Working with clay is intrinsically linked to country, and we would not be here without the care and connection that our First Nations peoples have shown for thousands of years on this continent we call Australia.
Hey Jane.
Hey Rora!
What's happening?
Oh, not much.
Just hanging out. We're recording at my house.
I know, you can probably hear some nice wind chimes in the background.
Yep.
Maybe some dogs panting.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Or mosquitoes slapping. So I thought of this the other day, and you know how I've told you that I recognise in you how obsessed you are with clay, and that I feel like we're on the same level. I was wondering, I wonder how often in a day Jane is thinking about doing or consuming anything to do with clay and ceramics. How much capacity does it take up in your brain or your day-to-day?
That's a good question. How much capacity? I mean, it depends. Like, some days I go to a day job that isn't about clay, but I usually bring it into a conversation.
Always just sliding it in
Yeah,
there.
look, I reckon it's probably 60 to 70%.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, what about you?
So do you wake up and think, oh, do I have to put a firing on today? Or do I have to reclaim? Or I want to make this? Or
Do you know, it's probably recently, I probably haven't as much, but
how dare you? Just
before
kidding.
Christmas and that crazy time, that is exactly what I thought every time I paused. Like, do I have to check a kiln? Do I have to, like, uncover some pots? Do I have to trim? Do I have to handle mugs? Like,
Yeah.
do I have to, like, have a big as uni or something I've just forgotten about? But yeah, I'm really funny. Like, I go really hard, and then I think I've had quite a break.
Yeah.
And now I'm struggling to get back into it, even though I know I love it and it'll be good for me. It's kind of hard to get back into that space of joy.
And
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I think with this as well, you know, podcasting, it's like injecting ceramics into our life and minds in a different way, like on another level. So, you know, you're thinking about making, thinking about watching or listening to a podcast, and then thinking about our own podcast, and yeah, it's all encompassing.
Yes, and having a lot of imposter syndrome, going, who am I to be talking about this when I have only been doing it for a short amount of time? But we're still doing it, so it's good.
We are still doing it, and we're obsessed, and no one else is, well, maybe some other people are thinking about doing it, or
there's definitely, it's interesting, isn't it? Our friend Ruby has just started another Chats with Australian Potters, which is awesome. I feel like it's that, I forget what it's called, but like this universal energy where the same idea kind of comes to many people at the same time.
A collective consciousness.
Yes, collective consciousness, yes. Feels a little bit like that. It's been a great surprise that we were both sitting in that area, but it's so nice. There's not enough, so more the merrier.
Yeah, totally agree. And we'll have Ruby on here one day.
Yes, definitely.
And yeah, we'll chat about, it'll be like podcastception. Podcast about podcast about podcast.
Yes, it's true. Can't wait.
Yeah, clay's got a lot of property in my brain. Takes up a lot of space. Major real estate. Probably I actually wondered too much.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't give enough focus to other things. I don't know, just the things you think about.
I know, it is interesting. Like, I think for me, I've just been reading a lot of ceramic books and art books because coming back to uni, and I actually just read a novel, and that was a really nice break.
Yeah.
It was a really good book.
Right on.
Yeah.
Fantasy?
It was called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Oh.
Yes.
Cool.
A good fiction
Nice.
story about gaming, but it was more about friendship. It was just a really nice book.
Aww.
Yeah, just finished that last night.
Lovely.
So that was good. It is good to have a little break from the clay every now and again.
Yeah. I've picked up a book to read, and then, it's not clay related. But then after this one, I definitely do have a clay related book lined up for when it's finished. But I agree. Good to take a break.
Yeah.
So what has been happening with you this week?
This is week 1 of my last year of university in my undergrad. So week 1, starting class, getting all assessment, feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, good to be back. It's nice to be back in the studio with a group of people. And I don't know, I think there's something that really helps me to make, like having those deadlines at uni. I mean, that's obvious, but yeah, for me, deadlines are really important.
Do you set them for yourself outside of uni?
Yes. I do. I'm not as good at keeping them because there's not really as big a consequences.
True.
But, yeah, I mean, one thing which I think we've both done this week is enter into our university art prize.
We did, didn't we?
We did, yes.
On the very last day of the deadline.
Lots of technical difficulties, but we got there.
So many.
Yeah, so that's something, look, I just did it as going through the process. And that was a good activity. Art prizes we will talk about more in the future, I'm sure. Probably both got a lot to say about them.
I always find the process of applying really intimidating because a lot of what ifs run through your head, and also putting your work out there is so, I think, confronting because when you make it for yourself, you don't really or have other people's opinions weigh in on why you're making what you're making. But then putting it out there, you put it out there to be judged. It's such a strange feeling.
It's very vulnerable. You got to be very vulnerable. I think because the pieces I put in were university assessments, I've had that kind of stamp of approval from my lecturer. Yeah. Which makes it a bit easier. It would be way scarier if I was just making pieces outside of uni and putting them in. I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, but that's one thing. Sorry, back to this week.
Yeah.
That's one thing this week. And I'm also doing a workshop on Saturday. Yeah, just getting ready for that. Yeah. Getting all the resources together and trying to think, if I'm never touched clay before, what do I need to make some items? What do I need to provide these people who have never touched clay before? That'll mean that they'll have a meaningful experience, get the idea of clay, and have some beautiful little items to take away. Yeah. Yes. Perfect. Yeah. What about you? What have you been doing this week?
Well, I went to a workshop. So we both did a workshop last year with Bill Powell, and he was teaching us throwing large for a week, and that was an amazing experience. So he's just posted up not that long ago a reduction firing workshop, and I've always wanted to learn how, and if my tiny gas one burner has the capability. So yeah, I signed up, and so as a requirement we were to bring a bunch of bisqueware, basically as much as we wanted, and Bill had his glazes available for us to use. So we spent the day glazing, and Bill gave us a booklet, just basically how gas works, how reduction works, and what happens in the glazes, and troubleshooting and all that. So that's been quite interesting because, I still struggle to get that kiln firing evenly. So to talk to someone that is just a pro in gas is pretty good. So I'm hoping that I can go with some questions about my firings, and Bill can help me troubleshoot maybe my kiln a little bit. What he did say though was oh, is it a Camel? And I said, yes. And he goes, single burner? Yes. Burners off to one side? Yes. Those things are notoriously difficult to fire evenly. And I thought, no, I don't want to hear that from you. But that's also makes me feel like, oh, at least it's not just me.
Yeah.
At least I'm not just completely misunderstanding and not doing it right. You know, it just kind of confirmed that, oh, okay, yeah, no, it is a hard thing. So that was good. So yeah, on Sunday next week, we'll go and collect our reductified pieces. I'm so keen. What else? What else did I do? Oh, last week, because we haven't chatted in a couple of weeks.
No, it's true.
But I decided to buy a second-hand electric kiln. So I put the deposit down. Yep, and I'm still actually feeling quite nervous about it. Mainly because I decided to use pretty much all my business money that I'd saved up to get it. So, yeah. Scary. We'll pick it up next week.
Yeah, great. And I think, this is what we're talking about today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because of Rora's little past couple weeks and all that talk and thinking and maybe a little bit of stress about kilns.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought it'd be a good topic for today.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because you've had your fair share of, kiln experiments and, fixing elements and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
You're pretty good with electric. And
well,
I'm really intimidated by it, to be honest.
Oh, really? I'm intimidated by gas. I feel like real potters use gas. Oh. Sorry, I shouldn't put bad statements like that in the world, but yeah, I guess, how about I tell my history of kilns?
Let's go. Okay, yeah. First kiln.
Well, the first kiln I used was at the Pottery Club and our local Pottery Club, and you paid an amount to use the kiln, and then you did a kiln training day where they gave you a little booklet on how to stack the shelves, how to, basically fire a simple electric kiln, how to use the controller. It had an automatic controller. And they put a lot of fear into me because it was a brand new kiln, because the previous kiln, there had been a problem where somebody had set a soak at top temperature for, I think it was 20 hours, not 20 minutes. And so the kiln had basically melted itself. Yeah.
You have told me about that, and I knew it was coming, but it still hurts to hear about it.
I know. And, so it was a lot of fear driven, and I was on my own first time I ever fired this new kiln. I had the training, but I also was very freaked out, and I put absolutely everything. I'm so silly now. So, okay, back a step. We were firing to cone 10.
Okay.
At the studio, and that's what I was doing too. So firing to cone 10 because that's what I knew. We were using PB103, a classic clay, and I bought some commercial glazes. Didn't really know anything about anything, but of course I'd researched hard. And because of the fear, I put stilts under everything. I didn't really know about stilts, but I thought stilts were a great idea. And yeah, stilts aren't really meant for things over kind of 1200 degrees.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. So plates warped, the stilts stuck to things, but didn't get a glaze on the shelf, which that was my biggest fear.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really fun beginning, but I got more used to that kiln, and I think it was a Tetlow, so classic Australian kiln. And I used that for a while, and then I heard that one of my mum's friends had an old China painting kiln that hadn't been used for 40 years in the back of her shed. And
so for those that don't know what a China painting kiln is.
Yeah. It was really big, I think, in the 80s, China painting, where people would buy basically made ware, white plates, for example, and then they would use on glaze. So basically like now a luster firing.
Right, okay.
And so it was really big to use these kind of China paints, they were called. But they were just oil-based kind of on glaze. And, have a kiln to fire that onto the pre-made plates. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's like so temperature-wise.
Yeah,
what
same
was
as
this
luster.
kiln
Like,
oh, right,
yeah.
okay.
So it went to 1,000 degrees, this kiln. It was a Ward, which were a really great Australian-made kiln. But yeah, I think it was called a C4. So C for China painting. And so its max temperature was 1,000 degrees.
Oh.
But I did hear of people upgrading them to go to cone 6. So I did a lot of research. You know, grabbed this kiln out of the old shed with full of rats' nests and bats and other animals and cleaned it up, and then did a lot of research, and I found out that you could get an upgrade kit from a company called AA Kilns.
Yep.
And spoke to them a lot, and yeah, basically bought the kit. I'm lucky my partner's got some background in electrical engineering and also the child of potters.
Yeah.
So
handy.
Yeah, knows a lot about kilns and can help me out, and that's been really, really helpful, having him just being really confident. Anyway, he helped rewire the kiln, put in like thicker elements.
Right, okay. Was that hard? Like changing elements?
It seemed pretty easy for him, but I'm just, look, I'm gonna have to do it. So watch this space.
Yeah.
I am keen, like my elements. Anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm keen to give it a go. I don't think it's that hard. Again, sometimes I think it's about just your confidence.
Yep.
Like, I know for me, doing those things when I've got no idea, I'm pretty freaked out.
Yeah.
That I'm going to destroy something. But because Jason's quite comfortable doing it, he just kind of does it and doesn't have that fear. So, yeah, we had to change the elements. We had to... What else did we do? New thermocouple. Even the box thingy that turns the elements on and off, like the relays, I think had to be changed. It was a major undertaking. It cost altogether about $1,000 to upgrade it, but it was a free kiln. So it was about 30 centimetres square kiln, and we also had to get a plug because it was 20 amps. The upgrade, no, 15 amp. So I think if you go over 10 amp, I think 10 amps our standard appliances, you need, like, they're different types of plugs and you need to be wired directly to your fuse box. So we were also lucky that our neighbour was an electrician, so he just came over and did it for cost.
All meant to be.
All meant to be. I know, I've been incredibly lucky in that space. But at the same time, I was trying to make a kiln do something it wasn't meant to do. So, which is fire to cone 6. And
so how did the firing go?
Well, because I also I was really confused because I'd only experienced kilns with electrical controllers. I thought I really know much about manual firing, and now I look back and I'm like, I should just manual fired the kiln, but I bought a Bartlett controller and put it on too. So that was good, but what happened is that's got an automatic setting on that controller that if you're trying to get to temperature and it's taking too long, it just shuts the kiln down. And so it would do that every firing. So
did it reach cone 6?
Yeah, sometimes it reached cone 8.
Oh.
Because it would just hold it too much.
Yep.
But to be honest, it was really struggling to get to cone 6 generally. And I think it's interesting with kilns, like electric kilns. They're still a bit of a mystery to me. But anyway, sorry, this is a very long story.
No, it's good.
Hopefully people are interested.
I am.
That's good. That's all that matters. Anyway, so struggled with this kiln, was doing just a few pieces at a time. And I wasn't making very much at that time, so it was kind of almost meeting my needs. But, I got to the point where I was putting, kiln blankets, fibre over it because I was
Tucking
it's
it
the
to
insulation
bed.
it needs,
Yeah.
And it just got out of control. But it was a couple of years ago, I was just looking on, I think it was Gumtree, and there was a pretty new looking Tetlow K6, which is a bit bigger than my ward, so it's about a 30-something by 30-something by 42, I think, centimetres big. So good, nice beginning size.
Yeah.
And it was an older Tetlow, which I think are good kilns, and it was quite cheap, and it was down the Gold Coast. And because my partner is the son of potters, he's like, every household needs a good kiln, let's go. Get in the car, we're going. So it was amazing we got it because it was just on the back of COVID then too, where ceramics had hit their peak.
Yeah,
and
true.
And wheels and kilns were rare, really, really rare, and hard to get secondhand. Like all the supply stores were sold out for 6 months ahead. Yeah. So I don't know how we drove those 4 hours down to get the kiln and got there in time to get it. But, and yeah, it's been great. So I've been using that kiln, I think, for nearly 2 years now. And that would all make sense, time-wise. And I think I might need to replace the elements. So obviously with that little ward kiln, I swapped from doing cone 10 in the studio at the community studio to cone 6. And so, now I'm still firing at cone 6 because even though those kilns can go to 1300, if you're pushing them up to that cone 10, you'll wear your elements out quicker. So I have been firing to cone 6. Okay. A little bit over. Yeah.
So when you got this kiln, you're saying you need to probably replace the elements now. Did you do that initially?
No, because we found out it had only been fired a couple times. So
lovely.
We bought it off this old couple, and I think the guy was quite unwell, and he was a reduction firer. And so I think what had happened is this was like going to be a transition into him not going as hard with the big gas kilns and everything, having a little electric kiln, but he didn't enjoy it, and he got, I think even like his health got worse. So they were really grateful that it was going to someone passionate about pottery, but it was also pretty sad that he was getting rid of all his studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be us one day.
No.
Not for a long time.
I've just been rolling with the original elements and thermocouple, but I'm going to replace. I don't know. I think also it's got a Harco controller. I don't know. It's just been doing some weird things.
Do you still have your first one?
Yeah, it's sitting there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because the Tetlow's bigger ampage, so because it's bigger, it needs more electricity, we had to get our neighbour Hamish to come over and redo the PowerPoint again. Because every amperage, I'm not sure if that's what you say, has a different style of plug. Okay. And I think if I go over 25 amps now, I'll have to get it directly wired into the box. Yeah. And this is all single phase. Yeah. So 3-phase is a whole nother thing. We can't get 3-phase because we're too remote. You're probably the same here.
I'm not really sure. I think Mum mentioned a really long time ago, someone was doing some upgrades on the road, and that Energex reached out and asked if we wanted 3-phase.
Oh, okay.
And with a cost. And, Mum at the time said, no, we're good, thanks. Yeah. So I actually don't know if we can get it or not. But, we're quite remote as well. So, but I think the cost involved in that is probably pretty hefty.
It is. I think it's, It's like...
I don't know too much about power, but...
I mean... I feel like I'm going to say this and it sounds stupid. I'm not sure if it's right. But, when you look at power lines and there's like 2 lines? Yeah. I think you need 3 lines to get 3-phase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how many we have.
No, I don't either. I'm not even sure if that's true. Please let us know if you have wisdom on this and would like to fix our misinformation we're sharing here.
Yeah. If it is true, we hope you're impressed. Yeah. If it's not true, we hope you had a good laugh. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, electric kilns I don't think are great for going to those high stoneware temperatures.
Yeah, okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
That's something at uni as well to prolong the longevity of the kilns. no one really goes to 1280, hey?
Yeah, no, cone 8's our top at uni.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cone 8's, yeah, it's probably about, is it 1280?
I don't know.
Because, okay, let's
Is
talk
it
about
1260?
cones. I feel like this is important because there's probably people out there going, cones, what? So, yes. A cone is a little kind of ceramic pyramid that you put into your firing because it's really important when we do firings that we know the heat that happens, but we also know how long the heat's been going for.
Yeah.
So heat work is what it measures. So it's basically heat times time. It's like cooking an omelette or a cake. Like, you know, you could cook an omelette really, really slowly on a really low heat for an hour.
Yeah.
And you just get cooked, or you can cook it at full heat for like a minute.
And the center can be gooey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's hope that, yeah.
So the way I think about cones is, so you've got your thermocouple, which is in the kiln and reading the air temperature.
Yeah, that's your like thermometer.
Yeah. And then the cones are better at gauging the temperature of the pots.
Yeah.
Which hold heat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But also, like for example, if on my kiln, my thermocouple reads 1,200.
Yeah.
And then I hold that at the end. So I hold it at that temperature for 15 minutes. And that will make it go, like, the pots cook more, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And hit a higher cone.
The glaze matures.
Yeah, because if you could probably fire a cone 6 by holding the temperature at 1,100 degrees for like a day.
Yep.
You could still hit cone 6.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that's true. That's just an example of a possibility.
Yeah.
But you probably, yeah.
With the gas firing, so I put the cone pack. The cone pack has become really important for me because I realized that there's such a variance between the digitemp reading, so what the thermocouple says, and then what the cones say. So it's probably an indication that I need a new thermocouple as well. Look, all in good time. But my digitemp will read 130 degrees lower than what the cone is bending at. So I initially thought for such a long time, because, look, I wasn't doing cones the whole time. Naughty. I thought that I wasn't getting to cone 6, but, you know, I was probably firing to cone 7, and I thought I was firing to just cone 5. Yeah.
Those thermocouples and the digital readings are not accurate.
They really aren't.
Unless, like, you can get all different types of thermocouples. I can't remember all the letters.
N, K, and R.
Yeah. Do you know what they are, though?
No.
There's, like, a cheap one that's not very accurate, and that's the one we probably all have.
Yeah.
You can pay, like, a lot more money and get a really good one.
Yes.
Yes. I should have done some research on that. Just
actually,
looking things up now.
No, I do have a text from a good friend telling me which one to get. I can't remember. I will find it. But so the more expensive ones, they tend to be 6 times more expensive, but they last 6 times as long.
And they're more accurate.
Yes.
Which
so
is
apparently the best kind to get is the R type.
Oh, the R type. Good to know.
R type. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's type K that they all get fitted with.
K or N. Yeah.
And they're just not that great.
No, and they're cheap. But I mean, it's hard. Like when you're forking out for new elements, which I think both of our kilns, your new electric kiln, will probably cost $1,000.
Okay, good to know.
Put new elements in it, and you have to do that depending on how much you're firing. What temperature? Sorry.
Yeah.
Or cone you're firing to. Like every 100 to 200 firings. So.
Okay.
It's really expensive.
So do you keep a tally of how often or how many firings? You really should. So you should.
Yeah. I've been really bad. It's not like me. I'm usually quite onto these things.
Yeah.
But I think because I got the kiln secondhand, I didn't know how many times they'd been fired.
Yeah.
Do you know what I have kept though? Every cone pack.
Oh, really?
So I always put cones in every glaze firing.
Okay.
just
Cool.
because we have lots of power shortages.
Yeah.
To like, we have blackouts all the time, and so if I'm just letting the kiln go, I really like to know where it's hit. So, and a standard cone pack for me is the cone I'm trying to hit, which is usually a cone 6, a cone above cone 7, and a cone below cone 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I put them in every firing. I also, when I first got the kiln, and I've done this a few times, is put cones on the front and back of every shelf just to see where the cold patches are in my kiln.
Yeah. Is there
yeah.
a lot of variance? Have you found?
Big time, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, my door's a bit warped, and I think that's doing something.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, why I do a soak at the end of my firing, because that can even out your kiln load. Mm-hmm. So it just seems to bring them all to about the same. Because, you know, when you're doing functional work, you want to be making glazes that you know are hitting the temperature, that your clay is close to vitrified or vitrified. And, yeah.
Yeah, I probably should do a bit more of a heat map in mine. I've done a cone pack on each shelf, and the top shelf in my gas kiln is always hotter, which, you know, at this workshop, everyone was kind of discussing with Bill their issues in their kiln, and the general consensus was the bottom shelf was hotter, and everyone had cold spots on their top shelf. So
really?
Yeah, so
that's weird, because
and I was
air
opposite.
rises. So you always think in electric kiln your top is always the hottest.
Yeah.
Well, I assume.
I'm not
every
sure consensus wise if more people had downdraft or updraft kilns.
Yeah.
So, but when Bill was talking about how the gas and the flame behaves as a liquid in the kiln, he was talking about how, you know, the shelves are placed, how the pots are placed, how blocked is the flue, how high is your bottom shelf, kind of just. So I'm going to take pictures of my setup, take it to Bill, and he seemed a bit perplexed when I told him my top shelf was hotter. Yeah. So I'm not really sure what that is, but hopefully I'll have an answer next episode.
Yeah, great.
We'll figure
it's
it
so
out.
good, isn't it? Because, and so, I don't know, I get so confused. I know very little about gas kilns. I do know that a whole big thing happened a few years ago where you had to get a compliance plate to sell or install on mains gas. And that's really meant that gas has become kind of unpopular, I guess, because it's quite expensive and hard to get that compliance plate. And we won't say anything about anyone's individual practice and how they roll and compliance plates, but just generally, I just know a few people have got around that.
So, with my gas kiln, so there's nothing really too special about gas kilns. They are pretty much just heat-proof boxes. But it's the compliance and, you know, the fuel that costs the money. So, you know, it's a simple box, but that can often be the obstacle for people getting them. And I know in really urban areas you can't get them as well, because they do sound like a jet engine when they are at top temperatures. You know, I've only got one burner. I can't imagine 6, like the sound of 6 at top temp, it would just be so loud. So I, with my gas kiln, was blessed enough to be given it as well, which is amazing. So my close friend was talking to her auntie about me and what I do in pottery, and her auntie piped up and said, "Oh, I have a kiln in my shed, and it's been in there for 15 years, and I've never touched it." I think she kind of ran into those obstacles of looking into getting the gas, and, you know, it just became too hard. So it was sitting in her shed for ages. And she said to my friend, "Oh, you can tell her if she wants it, she can have it." And at the time, I didn't have any power to my studio, so it was, you know, just a shed with an extension lead. I had bought an electric kiln in the hopes to get the power installed, and that, you know, became just really difficult, and I didn't have the cash at the time, so sold this electric kiln, got this gas kiln, all through uni we fired electric, so I was really intimidated by gas.
Yeah.
You know, with the idea of things blowing up and with, you know, an active flame is quite scary. But yeah, it was free, so I was going to adapt. And it was quite difficult to find someone that could install it as well. So I was calling around to all the local gas fitters, and I had a couple people come and look at it and just say, oh, yep, nope, can't do that. Try this guy. So I can't remember how many I spoke to, maybe 4 or 5. And everyone was just, nope, didn't have answers.
Like, that's a lot where you live. Like,
yeah, that's
all of them. I'm surprised you even had that many.
I know.
Yeah, you must have really dug deep.
Yeah, it was, and I even called our local pottery supplies as well. So in hopes that maybe they had a contact for me, and they didn't. They actually just told me that they had a couple other people looking that couldn't find anyone either.
Oh my goodness.
So that didn't help. But, you know, I didn't give up, and that was probably 6 months had passed. I'd had this kiln. I'd been looking. And I just thought, I'm just going to go on to I think it's the Australian gas website, and just look at all the gas fitters. And I found a listing, and I'd never even heard of an advanced type B gas fitter, but I saw it. It said advanced type B gas fitter, old mate's name. I thought maybe that's it. Gave him a call. Yep, he does kilns.
Oh, great. My goodness.
Yeah, I think a lot of the first plumber gas fitters they had no idea about kilns, so maybe they weren't really trained for it. I'm not really sure, but actually I think you need to have an advanced type B to do it. Anyway,
do you know what though? It's the same with electricians. There's a lot of electricians that have no idea about kilns.
Yeah,
and so they're quite unique skill sets. So yeah, great you found someone.
Oh, such a relief. So I eventually found this guy called Kurt Lewis online and gave him a call, sent him some pictures of my kiln, and he said, oh, just last year I installed exactly the same kiln for someone and did the compliance.
Oh, no
Great,
way.
Yeah. So he came out, he had a look, and he gave us a list of all the things we needed to do, because we didn't know anything about gas, but he told us about, you know, you're going to need a level bit of ground for your bottles, you're going to need a flue, you're going to need flashing, a hood, all this stuff for the roof. We actually had to weld the feet of the kiln to make them level as well. So we just, you know, I went through this checklist, and I'm very fortunate that my dad helped me out in financing getting the compliance. But all in all, with labour and, you know, the flue kit materials and paying for the compliance, it was $4,500.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, which
it's a fairly big kiln though, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know the square footage, but yeah, it's pretty good. I can fit a 55 centimetre pot tall. That's like the max height.
Yeah, yeah. But it's wider than it is tall, isn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah,
little bit. Yeah, so that's the gas kiln adventure. And I have since bought another gas kiln with 4 burners that I need to repair. So all the lining is trashed. So I've got to reline it, grind back rust, and build actual housing for it and get a slab done. So it's a huge...
just basically rebuild the whole thing.
It's a huge process, but it came up for $400.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know, I'm going to buy this fancy box, and it's a long-term project.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got a new electric kiln.
Yeah. So that'll be amazing, just to be able to program a firing and then go to bed.
Yeah, it is good.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. Just don't soak it for 20 hours.
Oh my God. I am really intimidated by the controller though.
Yeah, yeah. But once you get, like, you know, once you've done it a few times, you're like, oh yeah. I know what I'm doing. I still check, obviously. I try and make sure that it ends when I'm around.
Yeah.
Just in case. And, yeah, things like that. But
I think whenever I do my first firing, I might call you up.
yeah, totally. We can have a sleepover. Let the swags out. Watch the kiln.
Yeah.
Just like they did in the old days. Before controllers.
Yeah.
Where you'd have to, like, turn the button, the dial every hour to...
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We're so
lucky.
Gas, though.
Yeah, you're used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm quite ignorant with gas. So is there a way that you can do reduction in that kiln?
Yes.
Should we explain what reduction
Technically.
is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So reduction is basically, there are things in flues called dampers. It's basically, it might be a bit of fibre, a bit of kiln shelf, or I've actually got a metal sliding damper that you can close off the flue with. Not fully, but you can, basically cut off the amount of oxygen and heat that's coming out. And you can, on the burner, there's a part called a mixer, which is what lets the oxygen in and pushes the gas through. So the gas and oxygen are mixing and then coming out the burner. So you can turn that and close it off. So something Bill was saying at his workshop was he'll turn that little dial on the mixer and almost to close. So there's only a tiny bit of oxygen feeding the flame. And basically it'll go from roaring, huge pressure flame to a shorter orange flame, and it's basically all the flame is trying to find oxygen to burn as fuel, and it'll start attacking those parts, those molecules in the glaze.
Yeah, so it's, from what I understand, is that instead of taking the oxygen from the air, it starts taking the oxygen from the pots and glaze.
Yeah.
Because fire needs oxygen to burn, so it's always looking for it. And that's how reduction happens.
Yeah, so...
Science.
I actually came away from the workshop feeling a little overwhelmed, and that maybe I won't try it for a while. So Bill gave us these graphs of how he fires and at what time to do what and at what time to do what, and it's a lot more involved than I thought. But it's going to be one of those things you just learn as you go.
Yeah, yeah. But it sounds like any gas kiln can do it. Is that true?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think so. If you have the damper and you can change the oxygen supply in on the burner, then yeah.
Yeah, I guess if it doesn't close very well, it'd be hard to do reduction because there'll be always oxygen creeping in.
That's the thing I'm considering maybe a bit of a hiccup when I do try, is my damper is just a sheet of metal with a wooden handle that I can slide into the flue. Whereas, it doesn't take up the entire circumference of the flue. It lets some through, but I always just have it closed because I have had some trouble reaching temperatures, and I have had my inner flue melt before. So it's my flue setup isn't great. So I'm a little bit hesitant. But I'm never going to know unless I try, right?
Yeah, true. At least you've got a flue. I know I meant to have like a vent on an electric kiln, but it's just in the old shed and with the roller door up. And I mean, I don't know.
I mean, we've listened to some people say they don't vent anything.
It's true. So I don't hang out in there. Like, health-wise, it's fine. Like, I don't hang out with the kiln when it's firing because it's in, like, the work shed, not the pottery shed. But I am noticing it's like the roller, because it's quite near the roller door, and so the roller door's starting to get a little bit of I don't know, like corrosion on it. So I think it will eventually corrode.
Can paint help with that?
I don't think so.
Because I'm a little bit
thinking
about where the kiln's going to be situated in the studio, and I've seen pictures of what Bill's put up of his roof, and he's had to replace his roof.
Yeah, and I think you do eventually need to replace your roof.
Is that just one of those things that's going to happen?
Yeah, unless you vent it. So at uni, obviously, our kilns are well vented because of workplace health and safety, and just they're inside a building, so you need to. I mean, you could also do like a little slab and a lean-to shed for your kiln and get it out of your studio. That's something I've considered, but I don't know. I mean, guys out there, weigh in if you want to.
Tell us.
Send us your thoughts on Instagram or at our email, because we want this to be an open discussion and try to bring some kind of, I don't know, real world examples, not just those myths that keep being churned around.
Yeah. And I think maybe by sharing our stories and our journeys, it might give everyone else some ideas on how they can help their own situation, and vice versa. So if you can send us your kiln setup and maybe issues you've had, we could help someone else out there.
Yeah, hopefully.
Maybe.
We were talking about this before, like, it was a real challenge, that first kiln I had, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned so much from having a crap kiln.
Yeah.
And I think I actually feel a bit sorry for, and I don't, that's just, but if you go and buy a fancy new kiln with a fancy controller and everything works well, you actually don't learn. So it's been really good, I think, for me anyway, to have that experience of having a kiln that I had to really like troubleshoot and think about, and I've had to research, because I feel like my knowledge about electric kilns anyway is a lot deeper than someone I know. Like other people I know have just bought brand new kilns that work well.
For sure.
There's good things to being poor.
Resourcefulness.
Yeah, resourcefulness.
Yeah, I look back to how I felt getting gifted the gas kiln. Terrified, but learning about it, it's been both a blessing and a curse, because now I'm afraid of this electric kiln that I'm getting, afraid and excited. But having to learn how to attempt to get even temperature in the kiln and increasing gas pressure incrementally, and really just having to be present for each firing and really notice how the temperature's going up and be, I guess, in control of that manually. That's taught me a lot about firing.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, and just learning gas out of necessity. So
yeah. And I think, what's really nice is that I feel like I have a community now that I didn't have when I first was mucking around with that old kiln, the old China painting kiln. And so I feel that I can ask people, and hopefully for you, Rora, when you get this electric kiln, like, because we've troubleshooted so much, I can help you and we can help each other.
Yeah.
Because, it is scary. They're big machines and
they're big temperatures.
It's a lot of heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing with this electric kiln, because I was, thinking about the pros and cons, and, when you're buying secondhand off Marketplace, you don't have buyer's protection, and it was a big chunk of all my money. But one thing which was quite obvious about the kiln was there seemed to be a sooty coating on the inside. So it's a fibre kiln, and the elements seemed a bit charcoaly, sooty as well. But, just touching them, it came off. And hopefully firing it up, it'll all burn out. So this guy that owns it, he had never used it before. So he had it for 2 years, and he got it off what he said was a commercial company that fired it once a week for testing, and they only ever fired it to 1100 degrees. So, but to have, a carbon buildup inside an electric kiln probably indicates that some organic material has burnt in there.
Yeah, weird.
So I've wondered, and this is maybe not true, but who knows. My friend works at a fertilizer company, and the agricultural engineers have a little test kiln that they fire charcoal and organic material in.
Yeah.
I think just to check temperatures, I don't know, sciencey stuff. So I wondered potentially something similar was being done with this kiln. But there's no way to know. The guy that owns it doesn't know. So
I don't know if you would. I don't like elements don't go well with burning.
Yeah,
Like
I have no idea.
So I feel like you would have a gas kiln to do that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was wondering if it was mold.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
thought.
because it's been so damp around here. I mean, that's a bit weird. Like, it's not really. But I was like, when you showed me the photos, I was like, I wonder if that's mold. You probably would have smelt it if it was that much black mold. But it sounds like it's easy to burn off, and
I hope so. We'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah. But yeah, I think that actually brings up a good point, because I have heard people try and do reduction in electric kilns. And I think you can do it, but it's terrible for your kiln.
Yeah.
Like the elements, it's like, I mean, this is another thing we can talk about, is the opening of your kiln and what temperature and bungs and things like that.
Well, okay. So at uni,
yes,
it's frowned upon to open the kiln before 100 degrees, just to prolong the life of the kiln and the bricks so they don't crack and the elements and all that. But what temperature do you open your kiln at home, Jane?
I have been bad, but now it's under 200 degrees. And I try not to break that.
That's pretty good.
I might take the bungs out at like anything under 400.
Yeah.
So I feel like the bungs are fine. And I don't know, like from my research, the problem of opening a kiln early is the impact it has on your kiln. So the elements are the major problem.
It's
the thermal shock.
Right, okay.
So because they're wound up springs basically of metal, when they're really hot and you open up a really hot kiln, you know how metal when it gets shocked can get brittle?
Yeah.
I think this is what's happening. So the more you do that, the more like they wear out quicker.
Okay.
And they can break and things like that. Also, you know, your pots go through that quartz inversion stage where they get a bit bigger, like shrink and bigger, and through that thing at around, I think it's around 600 degrees, isn't it?
587.
Ooh.
I was reading about it.
Facts. I like that. So I think it's always a good idea to open your kiln after that's gone through its thing. I'm not really sure. Yeah. Again, I don't want to say definites here because I don't want to perpetuate myths.
Yeah.
So, but I think, think about raku. We pull things out of the kiln at 1,000 degrees.
Yeah, isn't that wild when you think about it?
It is. And yes, things will crack, but I think I've heard that, with things like dunting, where the glaze and clay kind of pull the pot apart, like the tension, that will happen regardless of when you open the kiln.
Yes.
So the biggest thing is the impact on your elements.
Yeah, okay.
So I always open, I have opened my kiln at just under 400 degrees. Not smart. And that's why I need to fork out for new elements sooner than I thought. And that's really silly of me. And I feel bad about that because it's not smart. But I've changed my ways and I will not open my kiln to under 200 degrees now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But gas is different, isn't it?
Yeah, because I guess I don't have elements. I just have fibre in there, and that's all that's going on, really. But, sometimes I have noticed some hairlines appearing that weren't there in glaze. So if I've done a luster, and lusters, you meant to fire them to 750 degrees, right? But I can peek in there and I've got quite a lot of visibility when I look in the peephole. And I've noticed at as early as 300 degrees, the gold is gold, So I've just been firing it to 550 and I've had no issues with that. But I will then wait and it cools very quickly, I think because of the flue. It'll be a couple of hours and I'll take the bung out and then might prop the lid with the shortest stilts. But yeah, there has been a couple times I've noticed potentially from thermal shock some hairline cracks appear in the bottom of mugs, but that hasn't been very often. But I do unpack with gloves on.
Hot.
Very hot.
Yeah.
I do make sure I put them on a wooden surface though, and not steel or concrete that could, accentuate any thermal shock.
Have you had burn rings on that wooden surface?
No, I haven't.
Yes.
No, I haven't. Which I guess is a good indication.
Yes. I may have a burnt wood ring
Do
somewhere.
you?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I wonder about that. I wonder if those little cracks are coming from thermal shock or if it's something that's existed in the body
Yeah.
and it's just taken all those firings to come out.
It's so hard to know because on For Fluck's Sake podcast, Matt has said that if something is going to crack, it will crack no matter what you do. It's in the making or it's in the drying. It's already going to happen.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So yeah, it is really hard to know.
But then there's things like flameware. So flameware clay, which is clay that has really good thermal expansion, I think.
It's really groggy, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's stuff you can put directly on a fire because we do know also, like, if you have a big casserole dish and it's at, say, 250 degrees centigrade, we should say that we're centigrade too. If anyone
yes, not Fahrenheit.
No, if anyone anywhere is listening to this, Fahrenheit, we have no idea what Fahrenheit is.
Not a clue.
Occasionally we have to get on Google and go, what is 375 Fahrenheit when we're baking a cake? Yep. But yes, we are the land of centigrade. Yeah, what was I talking about? Oh, yes.
Flameware.
Flameware. So, big casserole pot and you've got a hot casserole, you pull it out of the oven and you put it on a cold stone, that thermal shock can crack it.
Yeah.
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 So flameware is resistant to that, I think, again, because it's groggy and has good thermal expansion.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
Last weekend at the market, I had someone come up and ask if I had any cookware.
Ah, yes.
So if you were to make cookware...
You have to use that flameware clay, I think.
Really? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, like, if... Just so it can deal with the thermal shock.
Yeah. I would hate to make something and someone take it home and the first thing they cook in it cracks in half.
Yeah. Again, I'm no expert, but there's flameware for a reason, I think.
Yeah.
Flameware clay.
Yeah.
It's an American Laguna clay, I think, that we've started importing. I think Kilns has it.
Ooh.
Not cheap, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah, but interesting.
Something to look into. I think cookware would be fun to make.
Yeah,
Have you ever made any?
No.
No.
But we did, like, when I was a kid, Mum had a big terracotta, like, casserole dish.
Yeah.
That was, like, raw terracotta.
Oh, nice.
So it was, like...
Seasoned with flavour.
Yeah, like, obviously it was the 80s, food safety. It wasn't where it is now. But, yeah, it was this casserole dish. I think she only used it once because my mum is not a cook.
Yeah.
But, we kept the potatoes in it.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a few just kind of around in the garden, just random casserole dish kind of pieces that I think have come from op shops or been given with a plant in, but we've never really actually used any.
Yeah, because if you think of like we have a crock pot, like a slow cooker at home. In winter we use it all the time, make curries and stuff. And that's ceramic, that inner.
True.
Yeah, but I guess the heat is going, like, it's not being shocked. It's going from, like, low heat to not that hot because it's a slow cooker.
Yeah.
And back again. But, yeah. So many things to know.
Isn't ceramics great? Oh, speaking of ceramics, where were we? We were at a butcher, my partner and I, and they were advertising what was called The Egg, which was a flame grill barbecue. And I walked outside and they had one on display and I tapped it and I thought, wow, this thing is ceramic, an actual barbecue. The body of this barbecue was ceramic.
That's so cool.
Right?
We've got an old barbecue that, because we have a bit of kiln fibre kicking around, I'm thinking that, it's one of those barbecues with like a lid.
Like on a lever?
No, it's just like kind of like a walnut. It opens in the middle.
Right.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I wonder if I could line that with kiln fibre and cut a hole in it with a gas burner and make it a raku kiln.
That would be a really great one.
It would, because it's like got a hinged lid.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Anyway, I did inherit a excellent, your garbage bin raku kiln.
Yeah.
Without the burner.
Yeah.
So, and you've got an awesome top hat.
Yeah.
I think they call it a top hat.
Is it just an old oil drum or something that's lined?
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm not sure either.
I watched a great YouTube clip the other day where a guy just made one that it was like a third of a 44-gallon drum.
Yeah.
And he just would put his gloves on and pick it off once it pick it up and take
I didn't
it over
even
his,
put a
pot.
handle.
Yeah, it was wild. But it was the cheapest way you could make a raku kiln.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Have you seen those microwave kilns?
Oh yeah, I looked into them. They're really interesting.
What are they? It's just a little container, right?
Yeah, it's some kind of magic. I don't know. It's it looks like plaster, but obviously it's some form of ceramic where it's weird because microwaves usually work on water particles.
Yeah.
I'm very confused by it.
Me too, but allegedly at max power or whatever, you can get to 1,000 degrees in a few minutes.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You've seen it?
I've seen it on YouTube.
I've seen it on...
It was that guy from the Great Pottery Throwdown. Adam, he's right into it.
He's so into it.
I know. But I tell you what, you wouldn't want to be using that microwave for anything else.
True.
But pottery.
Yeah.
But I have known people to use it for glass as well. Doing
really?
glass. I think that's where it kind of came from.
Ah.
Because you see glass kilns around. That's where actually I bought the controller for that first kiln I had was from a glass kiln company. It was way cheaper. Yeah.
Glass kilns.
But yeah, again, they melt at a lower temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just crazy to think that using a microwave, you can make a tiny pot, right, in the morning, microwave it, and then fire it in one day.
And it can stay for all eternity.
It does blow my mind a little bit though, because, in your kiln, if you ramp up greenware too quickly, you can really damage the pieces. You can, if they're a bit damp, blow them up, or they can crack. So how does it work in a microwave?
No, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, how does the moisture get out?
Yeah. Don't know.
We should talk about that. It's important that we clear up the myth that air bubbles create explosions. Air bubbles do not create explosions. It is trapped moisture.
Yep.
Which can happen in an air bubble. Mm-hmm. But I know people who've made completely enclosed pieces and have dried them very well and have fired them with not a problem.
Yep.
So it is moisture, not air bubbles.
And it's the expansion of the moisture turning from liquid into steam.
Yeah.
And it's the steam trying to escape, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, when I first learnt anything with clay, and it's actually it's something that people that don't even work with clay seem to understand. They say, "Oh, no, don't put an air bubble in it; it'll explode." And I'm thinking, how you don't know anything about ceramics, but you know that? Where do you get that from? But yeah, totally not true. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to I think I really like teaching or learning from that place of knowledge, not fear.
Yes.
Something I think for fuck's sake people say a bit on that podcast, and I agree. I think in ceramics there's these kind of myths that just get passed down. Yeah. And there's obviously some truth in them, as in it isn't good to have a big air pocket in your pot because it takes ages for all that moisture in there to get out because it gets a bit trapped in there. But it's not the air pocket, it's the moisture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, evil moisture.
It's hard in humid weather, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, yes it is.
Yeah.
I've just been putting things in front of the fan overnight.
Are you worried about them drying too much on one side?
Yes.
Yeah. I know. Well, because when you're working with people who are making their first ever pieces, I always say nothing thicker than the width of your thumb. Mm-hmm. But of course you get chunkamunkers.
Oh yeah. Fat bottom girls.
Yeah. Some really thick sculptural and pieces and mugs.
Yeah.
So I've started doing in my firing program, I think I did a 5-hour soak at 85 degrees centigrade.
Okay. Just to dry them out.
It was 90 degrees centigrade actually, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just to try and make sure, because in this humid weather, pieces just don't dry. Like I dried them for 3 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
Which, because I had time.
Uh-huh.
And I, when someone's made their first ever piece, you want to try everything you possibly can to make sure that they have a nice little piece.
Yes.
And so, dried them for 3 weeks and then did that. I think it's called candling when you hold it. Yeah. And they all survived.
That's amazing.
It wasn't even a crack.
That's so good.
I don't know.
And then you make like your 600th mug and it cracks and you think, how did this...
Oh, yeah, exactly. I know.
Oh, it's a mystery. Really is.
Yeah, it is. Well.
What time are we at?
43. It's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, no notes.
Oh, no notes, I know. I feel like we're both like... Yes. So, Rora, that was a real deep dive into kilns, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was... We've both had quite a bit going on kiln-wise, hey?
I know, and I've realised that there's still so much more to learn.
Yeah. So much. So many mysteries still.
Yeah. So we'll keep checking in.
Yeah.
But I reckon for today we've exhausted ourselves and the kiln conversation. So, yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Okay, bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed. You can find us on Instagram at birdsofclay_podcast. Please feel free to send us any questions or comments. And if you could leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on, that would be amazing. We'll see you next time.